Mattie Mondays. Where we do music in different ways. I guess friends ain't be dropping gems. Always keep it genuine. Knowledge, power, and some funny. Every week, every Monday. Pure, real, and honest. Tap in, leave a comment. You're tuning in to Mattie Mondays.
All right, here we go. All right, so I'm back around at the grand finale with one of my favorite men on the planet, who just happens to be related to me, my Uncle June.
Hello.
All right, so we have made our way to a father who is a seasoned father with all of the kids out of the house. So I'm most excited for this conversation, Uncle June. I definitely have never really asked you direct questions about fatherhood, so I'm excited to see what it's been like and how much I'll learn from this conversation. You ready to roll?
Yeah, that's you got to unpack a lot.
No, this is good. This is good. It's not only to honor you, gentlemen, you men, you fathers, on this day and in this season of Father's Day, but to also see what it is that you guys need. A lot of times we don't ask you, so let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So can you take us back, Uncle June, to when fatherhood started for you?
It's funny. I thought it would be when I had my first child, but that was not the case. Fatherhood started as I was just a child. I was only like 12 or 13 years old, and my sisters had kids, and I always felt like I was not their father, but I was part of their parenting. And so parenting came to me early in life, and it always been there for me early in life. As you know, in our family, we have a lot of kids floating around here. And it's all my sisters had kids, and you can't unattach yourself from people who you love, no matter where they're at. And when they have kids, you can't have nothing but love them. So I was a young man who just loved being around my family, and part of that with parenting, even though I was still a child, parenting was part of it. So I always had a connection of being a co-parent with kids who were not mine. But that was an honor because I love hanging out with kids. They always give me an insight for new things because they always have a good perspective of how life simply should be.
Yeah, that's cool. I did not expect that, but it makes perfect sense. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so I went a little backwards, so I'll chop this up. But before I roll into this next part, can you take a moment and introduce yourself to the room?
Sure. My name is Hiawatha Bethea Jr. I am 56 or 57 years old. Doesn't matter anymore. But I am a husband of 30 plus years with Olivia, my best friend, and my wife. I'm very fortunate to have a best friend and wife together. And I have three kids who are David, Nye, and Nadia, who are very much grown and paying their bills. And that's the ultimate thing for a father. Their kids grow up and be able to sustain themselves, because that's what you want your kids to do. If something happens to you, you want them to be able to move forward. And that's, to me, that's the ultimate give back. Their children can go beyond you. And I'm a retail manager for 30 some plus years. And I have been fortunate to be plenty of brothers and sisters and cousins, and one like a niece. I come from a very big, loving family. Very complex sometimes, but loving is definitely part of our DNA. We do love each other. You know, we beat each other up, but that's part of it anyway. So that's who I am.
part of the initiation of
Yeah.
well, getting beat up.
You can't survive without having a little tough love. I mean, you can't. It's just part of being a big family. And I marvel at how much love I received as a child because I had a big family. I feel like I was blessed.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. All right. So you answered and you took us back to when fatherhood started for you. And I think that's a beautiful way how you just presented that. Um, with the reality of feeling that role and that responsibility with us, your nieces and nephews and cousins. Um, so once you spoke of Aunt Olivia, um,
Hmm.
your wife and best friend, my auntie. So when you found your life mate, your life soulmate, and and you decided to, walk this journey together, then where did fatherhood come in?
Instantly. Um, Fortunately, I had a son who was not my son, who is my son, David, who's was 7 years old when I met him. So when I married Olivia, David was already there. So I came already walking day one into fatherhood.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal because I could not ask for a better son. Um, and there's a lot of unpacking there because when I first met him, within 2 minutes, he called me dad. And
Oh,
it threw me off because I wasn't expecting that. But I remember saying, I appreciate that, but give us time. Let's take this slow. But when I saw him, I knew it was my son.
oh,
And one thing I wanted to do as a father is to make sure no one can question it. So I remember within 3 years of me getting married, I changed his name and adopted David, even though he was mine. Because that
beautiful.
meant that I did not ever want him to feel like he is not mine. So I adopted David, even though I married Livia. And that was very, very important to me that he know I am 100% committed to him from day one. So
Nice.
it was a definitely great process. Then I had many years later, I had two girls, Naya and Nadia. But that 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 exposure with Olivia, it was just incredible how we just came together as a family instantly. And I'm saying it come with bumps and bruises
Yeah.
because you always have a challenge to grow, get to know someone.
Yeah.
But I feel like I was not say born to this, but I feel like I was ready for this when it came to me.
Nice. And that coming directly from, having so many kids around, growing up in
Exactly.
a family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Preparation. Didn't see it coming,
Right.
but it was right. What I need, what I not needed, but something I was prepared for, because I always had that mindset, and it just really gave me a great foundation to build on. And I would say this also: who I was at 20 something is not who I am at 50 something. I am not the same father.
Yeah.
I would have done things a lot differently at 20 something I am at now. But also I realized I don't know what I don't know until I know it. So I've learned to not judge me on who I was at 20 something to who I am at 50 something, because that was what I was doing was right at that time.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm learning that that's okay if I have a different opinion of fatherhood. It is not the same.
Yeah. No, that's
It is
real.
a,
One of the themes, of course, that continues to come up is you guys didn't really get a blueprint. And as many fathers that have been on this earth, it's still always going to look a little bit differently.
yes.
Yeah.
And every child is I've learned is different. You don't parent the same with every child. I learned that's a hard thing I had to learn, because every that means that we are not having robots. We having people, and
Right.
we know people are different. So you got to communicate differently to each one and learn their language. That's one thing I've learned being a father of 50, that I'm not I got to communicate what that person needs, not what I want to give. I think that's good parenting. You get what they need, not what you want to give. And that means you gotta have insight in yourself.
That's
So
right.
yeah, so it's it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was until I learned later on. I have to learn that child and what their child needs. I must learn how to give what the child needs, not what I think I need to give them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see how it doesn't really hit that lesson until you're in that space, or even have kind of I guess misstepped for some time,
Oh yeah.
to have that kind of aha moment, uh,
Mm,
as
yeah.
as your child, you know what I'm saying? It's, as I guess the first one, and then the second and third comes along, and
Oh yeah.
you think you got, well, I got this tool, but no, that tool don't work.
No, I gotta find out too.
Right, right. It's a toolbox of fatherhood, right?
Hmm.
And you gotta keep going in there to see what works.
Yeah, but Maddie, I found something. I don't use twos anymore. I use a play box. I and this is me. I'm putting my coaching thing on,
Let's
and
do it.
I apologize, but this is what I don't like using twos. That means if it's a two I'm using, that means I have to fit you,
Mm,
and I'm not trying to fit you. I need to have a two box to play with you, and see what you like to play with.
I see.
So I
Yeah,
get toys. Toys to create. Toys give creativity, imagination. That's what I'm learning to do more than have. I'm disassembling my two box and I'm making a play box, creativity. Because I learned when I try to fix stuff, that means that you're broken, and actually you really can't fix no one.
yeah,
So I've learned. I'm changed how I see things. Thank God my grandkids. I am not. I'm playing with my grandkids. I'm not trying to train my grandkids.
mm, yeah,
Because play gives you creativity and openness and freedom to discover who they are.
yeah. No, that's a great point, and I can I guess in auntie-hood, I can see how, or imagine, because I'm not a mom, but I can imagine how my approach, it'd be harder for me to be a mom and come with that step initially, coming with the play box versus trying to quote unquote train, versus how I can be free and just being a person to my niece and nephew, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have that quote unquote huge responsibility as the mom,
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah,
be I can be a person that they're building a relationship with.
yeah. Because
Um,
at the end of the day, that's what we are.
yeah,
And I'm not, like I say, I didn't know these things years ago, but and further about with freedom of playing, there's as you know, if you play with a toy, you get creative and you figure out how to do things different than you had before. The toy can be one thing, be something else for somebody else.
yeah,
And that's why I say it's that gives you it gives you space to create a relationship,
yeah.
not space to build a relationship.
Right. Like you come in there with a fixed idea, right?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and creativity means I can transform to anything that needs to be.
That's a word. That's a word for every relationship, right? In our lives. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. Because thing is, if that means I can transform to be what you need me to be, then if that's not a burden, that is a opportunity to free myself to know you.
mm, mm. You preaching. You preaching. I was just saying to myself, and you letting some walls down over here, because
Mm,
I was just, getting frustrated internally, having a conversation like, man, why do they expect me to be? Why can't they accept that I am this instead of coming to me expecting me to be something else?
else.
But there's a fine line, right? What is what I'm kind of telling myself as I hear you say that is, maybe that's true in some ways, but I don't have to be so fixed, right?
No,
I am
because
me, but
you are you.
yeah,
And
but
thing is, I give you space to be you because there's no plan.
yeah,
It's only play.
yeah,
There's no plan. And if I'd known that, it's easy to accept. If one child is a lot more sensitive, then I know I can come by this way and play with that. If one just tough minded, I can play with that. But there's no wrong or right in the relationship. It is.
Yeah.
Because I know I had a mindset of this is how I deal with people. Not saying this is how I learn how to relate with people. Creating something is easier than just building on top of something.
Yeah. Yeah. You can start with your own. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Okay. All right. So how has and then you kind of just gave us a insight to that, but let's dive a little deeper. But how has being a dad changed you as a man, as
Mm.
Hiawatha?
I told, it's funny, I talked to my son David and I gave him some advice. I said, I am your father over 30 years, and my number one burden is to get out of your way and get ahead of you. So who I was at 20 as a father can't be who I am at 50 as a father.
Mm,
So I have to continue to grow as a man and show what it looks like at 50 as a father than when I was at 20 as a father. So when you get to your 40s and 50s, you know what it looks like because you should grow beyond your kids. You can't treat your child when they were 5, still treat like a 5-year old.
yeah.
You should grow as they grow, so they know what to grow to. Not to mean become a clone, but maturity. And I've learned that a father, I should continue to be a father to him, but learn how to be a different type of father because he's growing and give him space to be who he need to be.
Yeah.
So my manhood is connected to my fatherhood, but the manhood is funny. I laugh at myself sometimes and think what masculinity looks like as a father, and I was not so it's wrong, but I didn't know that it has so many different avenues. I didn't know father has so many diversity. I thought it was mostly one or two ways. It is so open to what could be if you just let it be.
Yeah. It's one of those ways because I know in my mind, one is like tough, right?
Yeah, and
Was that one
and
of
that's
them?
a standard with most guys. I gotta be tough. I gotta show I don't play. I gotta make sure I'm the toughest one in the bunch. I can take and not realize toughness is great for a certain season or a time, but if that's all you have in your toolbox, and someone is a soft person who don't like being handled tough, you're damaging that person over and over again.
That's so real. You know who taught me that lesson here
Who?
recently in the last couple of years? Is Jordan, my
Hmm.
nephew. Because I came up to y'all knocked me around. I was like the first little boy. Y'all know
Yeah.
I, I grew up being tough, a,
Yeah.
a tomboy, and in my mind, even still as evolved and wise, whatever as I am, it was a moment where I was just kind of like knocking him around. Now we roughhouse, but I was like
Right.
poking him and knocking him, and he was kind of looking like, man, I want to be knocked around. He didn't say anything. He just gave me that face, and I was like, why did I do that with him and I don't do that with my niece? You know?
But
Um,
that
yeah,
masculinity, that's what I'm saying. Masculinity, you think is all that. That's such a small, narrow-minded,
it is.
limited masculinity.
Yeah,
Masculinity has so much broadness that we don't want to accept because it's hard to accept being more.
yeah,
But I'm not gonna be less because you want to make me less.
that's right.
I'm gonna be more because my children, my friends, people I influence needs more of me to be more. So I'm growing to be more in my fatherhood, my masculinity, to be as you and my wife said, I'm a big crybaby. Oh, I cry in a heartbeat. A good sentimental commercial. Oh, I got a tear going. Because it's just oh my goodness.
Yeah,
And I had no shame in that because you know what? That's all being a human being.
yeah.
I think masculinity sometimes we make ourselves less human.
That's a great.
Yeah, because I'm sorry,
That's, that's
full human has all aspects of emotion.
yeah.
So when you upset, what's wrong with that? Or you sometimes have to be tough. I'm not questioning that, but all aspects is human.
Yeah.
And I learned to be fully human. As me and Olivia phrase is, I want to be totally free as a black man. And totally free means I'm totally human.
Yeah.
That is my aspect to be for the rest of my life. 100% free to be 100% human.
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Yes, and I often I'm a crier when it comes to like movies and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I have sat back and been like, dang, that sucks that we have created such an atmosphere where most men don't feel like he could be sitting beside me watching the same movie and crying too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because there's so much freedom in it. Like I am really, like I said, I was shaped and molded to be tough on the outside, coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But I find solace in those moments when I'm watching movies and I can go there and cry. That's a place I know I can go and cry. I'm not crying through the day most of the time or
Right.
months at a time, but I could go watch a good movie
Mm-hmm.
and get a great emotional pull.
Yeah.
And
And
it feels free.
it gives you perspective.
Yeah.
People don't realize crying or emotion gives you perspective. What matters to you?
Yeah.
If suffering matters to you. So when you have a moment of someone needs compassion, compassion comes with what you have been before. If you're not a compassionate person, I feel sorry for that person who needs compassion from you. If you don't demonstrate it, all you're gonna get is hardness.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You demonstrate things with what you do, and it's hard to do something you don't want to do. You cannot you cannot show empathy if you don't know what empathy looks like.
Yeah.
You just can't, and that's practice by being in contact or in connected with your emotions. I don't quite quoting people, but there's a writer named Brene, God, Brene Brown. She's one of my favorite writers, and she just wrote this book a while back about emotions and how we limited ourselves to only a few emotions: mad, happy, sad, only a few. And that's not real world because we demonstrate what mad really looks like. It's such a wide spectrum,
Yeah.
and men try to limit themselves on a very small spectrum on their emotions, but that's not a full human.
Yeah. That's a heck of a box to have to
Yes.
for you guys to be put in.
And I'm fortunate to have some guys who have shown me what it means to be full human. To tell me I love you and not be concerned about what that means because he really loves me.
Yeah.
And there's know what that means. It has nothing to do with masculinity. It's about loving another human being.
Yeah.
But if you say that, like we said, and my dad says that now. I'm be very transparent. My dad had said when I first said to him many years ago, I kind of threw him off. He was like, "What?" And I
Yeah.
kept saying it for years. Then he finally said it back to me, and he knew it was not a threat,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
had to learn that from me.
Yeah.
And we had to learn how to deal more emotional because if we never had to, we won't.
Yeah. And then that's pulling, a different generation from Papa.
Yeah, they don't show emotion.
Yeah.
And I learned to study Black history. They had to put their emotions so much in check because their emotion would kill them.
Mhm.
Literally would get killed. If you show anger to the wrong person, you're dead.
Yeah.
And to be in that box for so many years, a lifetime, there were people born and died in that box.
Yeah.
And I know why we struggle with our emotions because we had a history of putting our emotions in that box. You think about masculinity with Black masculinity, and a generation before me had to do that.
Yeah.
It was part of living. If you show anger, you show tears, you show something at the wrong time, you die. And that's a horrible box to live in.
Yeah.
So we that's why we see this rediscovery of our emotions is very new as a father, as a husband, as a man, because we have not had it over 100 years. It is only recently, in the last 50 years, we have been able to express our emotion like that as a people.
Yeah.
And that's pretty damn deep.
No, it's very deep. It's very deep. I could see the you know, I would consider myself blessed to be an '80s baby. But I say that just based on the perspectives that I've been able to live through and to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like how you guys and some of the information coming from just speaking to you, my mom and my aunts and uncles, but kind of seeing and getting an insight of how you guys were raised, the rules that governed you and the culture versus like a little bit more freedom that we got and a little bit more freedom that my brother
Mm-hmm.
got and a little bit more freedom that my niece and nephew are getting to
Yes.
and freedom to be themselves in ways we definitely damn it as far as like, oh, they bad, they can do whatever they want to do. But on the flip side, I think because we're evolving, we're allowing them more freedom to be themselves.
Yes. And to make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I heard a podcast just yesterday, and I love this. I'm gonna use this a lot. Parenting is a great thing to have, but if you show a perfect parent, that's a horrible parent to be.
Mm.
Because if you're perfect, your children go out looking for perfect people to live with and be with,
Yeah.
and they're not there.
Mm-mm.
So you should show your flaws and your brokenness in front of your kids, because they would go look for broken people they can still love.
Yeah.
Because
I love
brokenness
that.
is part of being a human being.
That's right.
And your first teachers are your parents.
Yeah.
They are your parents. And a lot of times we do it injustice to be a perfect parent in front of our kids. And that's not real reality. That's not. That sets you up for failure because you're looking for someone just like your parents were. Now realize there's no one out there like that, because your parents was not like that.
Right. Right.
But there are a lot of people looking for that perfect person. But they don't exist.
Yeah.
We all are flawed and have issues. But we can love them in spite of that. That's the beauty of being a parent. Loving people who are not perfect.
Yeah. Because we sure are not perfect as kids.
Correct. But we still love you.
Right. Y'all still love us. Um, this is a beautiful direction that we're flowing in. Um, okay. All right. So I want to shift just a little. Um, and everybody, you've heard me speak to my sister, you've heard me speak to my mom, and you know, of course, my uncle. We're coming from the same culture. But what? Um, oh no, let's go here. How can community make this journey easier or more peaceful, or has it for you
Hmm.
as a father?
That's very funny. You use the word community, and I remember when I first was a father, I saw a lot of my friends starting and going in this parenting thing, and I can tell they were very confused and very afraid. I'm gonna use the word afraid because they were scared to make a mistake.
Mm,
I had friends who I saw each day or talked to each day, was you can tell their voice is like they will make a mistake, and there was no space to make mistakes. And I'm looking back on that, I'll say, wow, if we could have had someone who was ahead of us to speak to us and tell us what we could do better, wouldn't even know we won't make mistakes. I didn't have that. I didn't have too many people in front of me speaking to me in community to give me guidance through that early process of being a parent.
mm,
I didn't have that. I just, matter of fact, I was not vulnerable to ask for help. I think it's more than I was not vulnerable. My friends was in the exact same spot I was in. We was young in our marriages, having kids, things like that, and we was not vulnerable to speak to the generation ahead of us and say, what do we need to do to get through the next phase of life?
Yeah.
Now I've gone back to people who are younger than me, and I don't want them to go through the same thing. So I speak back to the generations that behind me to give them opportunity, to give them space to learn, to make mistakes, and to grow. So I've learned to be a better reacher on generations behind me, to give them opportunity to have someone support them in the community.
Yeah.
So that's something that I wish I had, but now since I don't, I can give someone else that opportunity. So I have friends who have kids, maybe 5, 7, 8 years old, or my son, to give him wisdom. Just do that because it's vital.
Yeah.
It gives you I love wisdom. Wisdom is something that you didn't require to get was given to you. Wisdom. Because most times we have lessons. Lessons are something we learn for ourselves. But wisdom is something that someone gives to you that they learn through their experience. And I want to give wisdom to people who don't have to go through the struggle what I went through, to give you wisdom what I learned from that. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but I can give you insight for what I did.
Yeah.
So I want to give wisdom back to them. So that's the community that I've learned to be in now in the last 15, 20 years, with people at my job, people at home, people at other organizations I've poured back into.
I love that. See, that's interesting. That's why these conversations are so important. Because on the female side, um, their experience was, oh, there were, and we're, of course, we had a very heavy uh woman representation in our family, right? A lot
Yes.
of women. But even from Brenda to my mom to Tamika, their answers were, they were, Granny took the baby when I needed to go to college, or my sisters had, or um, and I think that's probably underlying, speaking to the different roles and expectations again,
Right.
because we have so much more room to, in I guess, in womanhood and being women, to lean on one another, and to be more emotive, and express more, and have certain expectations. So I
Mm.
imagine, I don't know, what do you think that kind of played a part on that, not feeling like you can ask?
Yeah, because most times if you ask, it means you don't know. If you don't know, that means that you're not equipped. If you're not equipped, it means that you're not gonna be able to get it done. We as a spiral down, thinking that if I show vulnerability, then show weakness. Not realize it's the total opposite.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
opposite, because if you show that you don't know, a opportunity to find out.
Yeah.
But if you never ask a question, then you're only going by your limited understanding of what your experience is, instead of going by wisdom by other people who have gone through this and can give you insight for what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I love the word vulnerability, and I use it a lot of time in leadership, because the best leaders are vulnerable. They make themselves human, because they show their weakness to be opportunity to show their strength. I don't know how to do it. I need to learn from someone else. And that gives you opportunity of learning from, it gives you strength for others. When you talk about community is people coming together for a purpose to achieve something. But you only can be vulnerable when you become a community. Somebody got to say, I don't know, or somebody say, I do know and I can show you. That's
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Nah, it's real. I definitely pick that word up the last decade or so, and start to understand it. And is sometimes when we just sit and think through the things that we've been taught, and reevaluate them,
Mm-hmm.
we could discover in a simple example, how hard it is, or how much strength it requires to show yourself, as in being vulnerable, and
Mm-hmm.
that makes it clear that, oh, this ain't easy. This isn't a reflection of weakness, because it's darn hard to be vulnerable.
Yes, but also it
It's
gives
so
you
much to
space. It gives you space to be human too. Because in being vulnerable means that you can be hurt. A lot of times we don't want people to know we can be hurt, or we cover it up. And when you cover up pain, it comes out somewhere else.
yeah, a lot of times in anger.
Anger, yes. It goes to something, it forms to something you really don't want, but you don't know where anger is coming from because you covered up something else. Your body never lies.
Yeah.
The body always reveals what's going on. If you hurt on one thing, you angry at something else, and them two don't match. And they say, where's this coming from? Because you covered up something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes so much strength to do that digging and finding the source.
Mm, yeah, that is the, as you know, the inner work.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had a button to push that the inner work was already done, but it don't work that way. You got to be a better person. You got to work at it to become a better person.
Yes.
It just not happen because you just live. No, life goes on, but you must be attentive and change because you must make attempt to make the change.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. It never happens that way. God, I wish it would happen that way, but it don't.
Everything is work. Everything
Yes,
is work.
everything.
No way around it.
Uh, Unless you know something like you superhuman. And last time I heard, I haven't met one of them yet.
Nah, I don't think they had it in the background somewhere.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. That's really good. That's good. That's good insight and great perspective. And we're all walking through this world with very different lenses based on what family we were raised in, what gender we
Mm.
are, or sex that we are.
Mm.
And it takes these moments, interactions and conversations for us to really, see and asking the right questions,
Mm.
get an understanding, and to see what it looks like for everybody else walking the world right beside us.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
And I love when you said ask the right questions. That's very, but even the point I was saying, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes humbling yourself, say, well, I just need flat out help. I don't know what to do. And sometimes that burden of releasing that gives you freedom to find out.
Yeah.
But a lot of people just stuff it and move on. And that never helps anyone. It don't help you. It doesn't help that other person or that child that needs you to learn how to move or work through things.
Yeah.
Because that's what I say. You have to. I have to continue to grow as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a uncle. All the aspects of who I am, moving forward to give space for people who are behind me to see how it's done
That's right.
and it's work.
That's right. And as much as we are living this life as individuals, and I'm very big on that, like starting going inward first
Mm-hmm.
affects everything else around us. But like you said, when we're doing the work to become more evolved and to learn and to challenge ourselves, it will naturally affect everybody else around us.
Always,
Yeah.
because they adapt to what you are.
Yeah. And
People
if you
people
growing,
not
they gotta
saying it,
grow.
but they do.
Yeah.
If you're a more kind, loving person, they would start looking at you different. If you become very disruptive and mean and harsh, they look at you different.
Yeah.
If people adapt to what you are, that's always been. But the thing is, what are you trying to become?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So from here, I have another question loaded up. Being a dad and a father, did that change your view on the world or on people?
um. Oh yeah. I'm laughing because I wanted to become a grandfather at 30 years old. I just, my grandfather, Papa Willie, was a. I didn't know how much he influenced me as a child, and he just had a fun. He just had his own little way of doing stuff, and I basically followed him sometimes. I just he okay. Are we being transparent here? Are we gonna be honest?
100%.
Okay. Here we go. I'm going here.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
So I'm coming home one night uh, from a place somewhere I shouldn't have been. Okay. I'm just telling you this. I'm coming home one night, place I shouldn't have been. I was like about 15 years old. And if you know Bon Air, you know that first room is Papa Willie's room.
Yes.
And he always have that daggone window open to see what's going on. So I'm creeping up on the porch, trying to get in the house. And all I heard in the dark was, then he says, boy, you better stay away from that girl's house. And that's all he said. And it put the fear of God in me. And he never, ever spoke about it again. And I didn't know how much that meant to me 2 years later.
Yeah.
To have that wisdom, to know you didn't need to beat him up, jump on him. He just said, and boy, stay away from that girl. And he never spoke about it again. And I prayed I had that wisdom as a grandfather to know when to touch softly and when to touch not to touch softly.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I won't be my grandfather. I want to know these things like that. So it's that's what changed me.
Yeah.
The influence of people who was giving you nuggets when you didn't even realize it.
My goodness, yes. Yeah.
I have at least about 10 phrases I use to this day about what he taught me. At least. I use all the time. And I quote, my grandfather taught me this. Because I honor my elders. So when you say that's something big to me because I realize I'm not who I am without someone pouring into me to give me ability to be who I can be better at.
Yeah.
Even I don't even know it.
They were creating a space.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But I have to be open to see it's not about receiving it then, it's about giving the seed and move on. Because sometimes the seed's not gonna come up till it's ready to come up.
That's right. Nah, that's all right. It's definitely a lot of gems that that you guys gave that I know I didn't. It took a long time for me to realize why you guys were doing things certain ways. Um, but it hit, and I think at the perfect times.
Yeah. In season. As someone said, you be Johnny Appleseed. Those seeds don't matter what they hit, as long as you just throw them. The other part's not up to you. It's just not.
Yeah.
We got to just throw seeds as much as we can because the other part's up to God and that person's heart. Both will be working to make it happen. If your heart's ready to receive it, it will come forth. It always does. And if it don't, then know it. You've done your part. So yeah, when you ask that question, that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Papa Willie.
Papa Willie.
Awesome.
Still miss him tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely people are so big in our lives that yeah.
You don't know where I'm at, but I'm in my office, and there are two people who I see every day. Is my grandmother, who's on my right hand side, and my grandfather, who's on my left hand side. And I look at them every day when I come to my office. I mean, literally, I'm looking at him right now. And matter of fact, I just realized I have them side by side in front of me. And she's on the piano, and he's in a picture with a robe on. And I always have them there because my elders are my elders are people I do lean on. And my grandmother was my first big matriarch person.
Yeah.
So parenting came 101 from her. Yeah. That would be your great grandmother.
Yeah. Who I'm named after.
Correct.
That's right.
Yes.
Mattie Ingram.
Mattie Ingram. That's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
Awesome. All right. Now, before we depart, thank you. Happy Father's Day to you, Uncle June. I love you with all of me. Before we leave this space, what or if there is anything remaining, what would you like to leave the room with?
I don't know. It's what I always remind myself as a man is I have responsibility. That's never going to change. How I deal with responsibility is the most important thing. And where I want to go must be intentional. Can't be just live because life's too short. So I got to be intentional to do the things I want to do as a man, as a father, and let go. I guess the biggest thing is give freedom to be free. To be free. As a man, as a father, as a friend, as all the things, to be free. And freedom is it costs. I didn't know how much it costs. But freedom comes with a cost.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping I continue to pay that bill for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Uncle June, for being here with me on this special season.
Thank you.
And for being the man that you have been in my world.
I am very honored to see you become who you are. I've been from trap meets to all over the place, always looking to see what you're doing, and you have never disappointed me, ever. I want to say thank you. It's not about mistakes. I'm just always wanting to see what you're doing. And it always gives me pleasure that you're finding something great for your life.
Yeah.
So thank you.